Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Hunter's World. I'm James Hunter, your host, and here on our second episode, we have a special guest, Myles Heger, the visiting clubhouse manager for the Pawtucket Red Sox. Myles, thank you for coming on my show.
James, it's great to see you on the other end of the spectrum, as obviously we work together doing the football games during the fall, and I kind of take the lead on things.
Yeah, now it's
Hand it over to you. You're in charge today.
Thank you. How have you been? I understand you're the visiting clubhouse manager for the Pawtucket Red Sox. How has that been for you?
Well, you can call them the Paw Sox, and that'll make it a lot easier on you. It's been quite an experience. 9 years for me now in pro baseball, and it all started back in 2006 with the Brockton Rocks, and so from 2006 to September of 2008, I was bat boying and working in the clubhouse with the Brockton Rocks, and lucky enough to get a phone call in 2009 from Pawtucket, and it was a phone call from the clubhouse manager who I worked with the Brockton Rocks in 2008, and he called me and he said, "Hey, any interest in coming down to Pawtucket and working in the clubhouse down here with us?" And basically the rest is history. It's been 6 years in Pawtucket now. The past 2 seasons as a visiting clubhouse manager, it's been fun.
Yeah.
And 9 years, going into my 10th year, hopefully this coming season, working in pro ball. Most likely it will be in Pawtucket unless something pops up, a job I can't really turn down.
Right.
It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It's something as a child, growing up, I saw, I'd love to work in pro baseball. I was doing book reports and reports in school on Mo Vaughn, Nomar Garcia-Parra, Roger Clemens,
Right.
when I was 6, 7 years old. And
Right.
back then, my first grade teacher said to me, she goes, "You're going to work in baseball someday." I still see her nowadays, and she goes, "I told you so." And I said, "You were right." So it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It really is. I've been blessed to meet so many of my childhood heroes, and lucky. At the end of the day, it's fun.
Yeah, that's all that matters, right? As long
Right.
as you're having fun with it. And I understand you've been there quite a while, and they've won a couple championships, World Series.
Yeah.
I noticed the ring on that.
You can see that. I'll
Yes.
show it to the camera over there.
It's pretty official.
Yeah, this is the first of my I just got my second, or I will get my second in April.
Right.
The Pawtucket Red Sox won the International League Championship this year as well,
Okay.
making it 3 years in a row. The Paw Sox have been to the Governor's Cup Championship. They've won it 2 out of the 3, and then, of course, the International League matches up with the Pacific Coast League in a 1-game championship. And we haven't won that, but to me, the International League and an International League championship ring is pretty dang cool.
Yes.
The only thing that could really top that is a World Series ring.
Of course.
And down the road, I certainly hope that I'll get a World Series ring. Although I did get to work with Boston in 2013.
I noticed the watch.
I got the watch.
Yeah.
It's not a ring, but a watch is certainly cool.
Definitely representative. I see you came prepared, Myles. The watch, the ring, the jacket.
I'm a walking billboard for the Red Sox, apparently, today. I got home from work today. I'm doing a winter job, and I said, well, what should I wear? No clean shirts in the laundry, so I dug deep in the closet and dug out something that has Red Sox on it, and that looks somewhat decent to be on TV.
Thank you.
And
it's only right.
Is.
Now, regarding your visiting clubhouse manager, why don't you talk about what you actually do as the visiting clubhouse manager for the Paw Sox?
Well, the easiest way to explain it to someone who might not be familiar with baseball or, familiar with sports is I'm a glorified babysitter / mom to about 25 to 30 grown adults. And basically I brew coffee, I do laundry, I feed them, I run errands for them. So basically it's practicing to go out in the real world someday and have children. But in all seriousness, no, I mean, you know, we have the, you know, obviously sometimes you see equipment managers and clubhouse folks on TV for, say, the Red Sox. They're doing an insight on a sports show. They don't show you the unglorious part of being a clubhouse manager, which is welcoming the team in, or the coaching staff or the bus drivers and the trainer in at 4 in the morning to drop their equipment off at the stadium. And lucky enough, I usually have 2 to 3 guys unloading the bus, and I'll take the laundry. I'll be doing the laundry because most likely the team is coming either from another road city or they're coming from home, so they have stuff that needs to be washed for the next day. So during the season, when the team is coming home or we are at home in Pawtucket, I could be there anywhere from 16 to 18 hours a day. If it's the beginning of a homestand or it's the beginning of a second team coming in on a 7 or 8 game homestand, usually I'm there at 4:30, 4 a.m. in the morning, unloading all the equipment, setting up all the lockers, doing the laundry, and then I usually will be finished about 2 hours after that, 3 hours after that. I'll fall asleep at the ballpark for a couple of hours, wake up at 9, 10 a.m. and go out, do a little bit of shopping or things that, you know, teams need. You know, I just finished my second year as a visiting clubhouse manager. I've worked in the visiting clubhouse for a couple of years now, so I have a relationship with a lot of the teams that come in. I know the trainers, I might know coaches, and if I know what they like, I try to go the extra step. So usually that would happen in the morning. I'd go out shopping, getting it ready. Team shows up. Coaching staff will usually show up if it's a 7 o'clock game at, say, 12:30, 1 o'clock. And then the first bus with the team coming from the hotel, usually about 2:30, 3 o'clock. Second bus shows up half hour after that. All the teams there, we just make sure they're all right. They don't need any errands. They go out to hit batting practice. We get pregame spread set up. Then they come in, they change. We do all that laundry during the game. They go out for the game. The game goes on, and that's where I have about 3 hours to get stuff ready for after the game. It's a hectic, crazy, busy day. Crazy homestand. And so come the end of the homestand, you know, I've got 7 days usually to relax a bit, unwind, get the clubhouse ready for that next team. And that goes on from April to, well, the last 3 years now, it's been mid-September because we've been all the way through the International League playoffs. It's a whirlwind.
I could imagine. Now, that experience for you must be humbling. Why don't you just talk about how that experience alone is just very humbling and such a good experience that a lot of people don't understand?
Well, certainly humbling. I mean, sometimes I'm speechless to see where I'm at and realize how lucky I am. You know, it's just the way I look at it. It's not what you know, it's who you know in that industry. And I was lucky enough to get that call in 2009 to come down and work in Pawtucket and give it 100% every day. And I haven't looked back. To be going into my 10th year and working in pro baseball, and I now have 2 championship rings. Next step for me is certainly some capacity working for a team and getting a World Series ring. But, you know, for me, it's something that I'm very, it is tough to explain. And I'm lucky. I'm certainly lucky. So I don't know how to explain it other than that, other than I'm very lucky to do what I do and be where I am in this aspect of my life.
Right. And although you're the visiting clubhouse manager, are you around the home team? Do you have any close relationships with the home team
I do.
as well?
Great question. I go the end of February. I'm lucky enough, since I'm technically not full-time with the Paw Sox.
Right.
The home clubhouse manager is. He has work to do down at the stadium, getting ready for the team to come in come the beginning of April, that I'm sent to spring training every year.
Right.
So I've been lucky enough the last 2 springs, 2 months of March, that I've been able to go to Fort Myers. So
Nice.
I do have a very good relationship with a lot of the Pawtucket players, and even a lot of the guys who are in AA, Single A, and some guys even in Boston now. Because I did, in my 4 years as working as a clubhouse assistant or an assistant clubhouse manager, I did work the home clubhouse a lot. I have a very good relationship with a lot of those guys. Couple guys offhand I can think of: Daniel Nava, who was in Boston, the last couple of years. Drake Britton, who's a reliever. Coaching-wise, Arnie Baylor, who's a first base coach for the Red Sox now.
Okay.
Dana Levangie, who's a former... Dana grew up in Whitman,
Okay.
and lives in East Bridgewater now. And, I'm very lucky to know a lot of these guys and have relationships with them.
Right. And although speaking of where East Bridgewater, I know you grew up in East Bridgewater, but you do spend a lot of time in Whitman. Why don't you talk about that a little bit and what you've done in the town of Whitman?
Well, it's kind of funny. I've always called Whitman my second home. A gentleman who I believe he is on the school committee now in Whitman, Hanson, Steve Boyce. Our families are close friends.
Okay.
I've always had, I've been politically active for years, and so I got involved here in Whitman, Hanson shortly before I turned 18. Steve welcomed me to the Whitman Republican Town Committee meetings, and I'd go over to the Whitman Republican Town Committee meetings. I got involved in Whitman before I really did in East Bridgewater, and so Steve Boyce welcomed me here in Whitman. That led to, in 2008, on Election Day, November, was standing shortly down the street here in front of Town Hall. I met a gentleman by the name of Jeff Deal. And I could tell Jeff had some characteristics,
Right.
of somebody who really wanted to give back in town and be a political, public servant. That was 2008. Flash forward about a year. Yeah, about roughly a year, a little less than a year. Jeff decided he was going to run for state rep here in the 7th Plymouth District, and I got involved in Jeff's campaign. I was helping Jeff out, running around in Abington, Whitman, East Bridgewater, and that just kind of opened the gate. Jeff obviously got elected state representative in 2010 and defeated a guy who was from my town, Alan McCarthy. And, this district's been very, very lucky to have Jeff. I think Jeff's done a phenomenal job. He's everywhere at all times of the day. Any time of the day, you call him, you're going to get an answer from him. So I got involved with that. And then I still stayed involved going to Whitman Republican Town Committee meetings. And I'm a frequent visitor of the Whitman Venus Cafe, one of my favorite places. And then you flash forward to just back in September. Obviously, Kevin Tocci and I have a good relationship. Kevin called me and asked me to start calling Whitman Hanson football games on WHCA, and you and I had a blast.
We sure did. That was quite an experience calling those games. I tell you, we had some good games, some bad games. I know that was my first time, but you've done it before. Why don't you talk about your experience calling games?
I have. you go back to when I was in high school.
Okay.
So now we're really, I feel old, and I haven't been out of high school too long. But you got a flashback. I started calling the Vikings football games in 2007.
Okay.
I was a member of the TV club. I had an interest in sports broadcasting. I had went to a sports broadcasting camp when I was, freshman in high school maybe. And, people in East Bridgewater consider me a townie. I know a lot of people, and one of the people who was calling the Vikings football games for probably 3 or 4 years before that was looking for someone to do the games with because the other person had decided they didn't want to do them again. So 2007, actually, I would have been a senior, I believe, because fall of 2007, it was either 2007, 2006, so I would have either been a junior or a senior in high school. I started calling the Vikings football games with Tony Costello, and that led to basketball games in the fall. And we never really did anything in the spring, but that would have been 2007, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I believe we did them for 5 or 6 years, and then the gentleman who calls the games over in East Bridgewater now took over, and
You're on Whitman, Hanson?
yeah, Tony Guerreri's doing games over there. I did football and basketball, and I did some hockey with Tony.
Okay.
The first year the Vikings came back as their own hockey team.
Okay.
And so I was involved for quite some time there, and lucky enough, things worked out, and got a call from Kevin Tocci, and looking for someone to call football games, and
Right.
you and I get paired up. Obviously, we had known each other from a few years back.
Right.
It worked out.
Yeah, it was
And,
definitely a good experience.
Certainly had a lot of fun.
Definitely.
To be in a sense, the way we always looked at it when I worked with Tony Costello and Tony Guerreri was, they were doing community volunteer work,
right.
or Tony Costello put it best. He would say, "This is my probation, probation work," and it's good to have someone who, you and I work so well together.
Definitely.
I think, you weren't wheeling yourself out of a nursing home every week, so it's all in good fun.
Yeah, I definitely had a good experience as well. Regarding the WH football, going back to broadcasting the games, you think you have interest in doing the basketball games as well if we have that opportunity as well?
We've talked off air, obviously.
Right.
I'm no Mike Gorman, no basketball play-by-play guy, but, like they say, you teach a man to fish, he'll eat his whole lifetime. I've done basketball. For me, it is a different entity than football is.
Right.
But I think with a good wingman like yourself, I think we'll be A-okay, and it'll be a lot of fun if we end up doing it. And I hope the viewers of not only your show, but of Whitman Hanson Community Access, if they are watching this, I hope they'll tune in during the winter months and see what we got for them.
Yeah, hopefully they like seeing us on TV, right? Hopefully we're doing a
Well,
good job.
luckily during the one good thing for the people of Whitman Hanson is they didn't have to see our faces on the sports games.
For the sports games.
So,
Yeah, it was pretty cold up in that booth, I tell you.
Well, if you dressed right, it wouldn't be as bad.
Yeah, touche. You're right. Now, going back to broadcasting, I know you have a past in broadcasting throughout school. I know you went to Connecticut School of Broadcasting for college for a few years. You also went to Bridgewater State College. Why don't you talk about that experience up until now?
Well, I went to Connecticut School of Broadcasting out of high school. Grade 8-week program up in Needham. The only thing I didn't like was the traffic in the mornings. 128, 99% of the time was a parking lot. Met a lot of great people there. A lot of people I still stay in touch with. That was exciting. Massasoit was interesting to say the least.
It was.
Lucky enough that we had some great professors at Massasoit.
Definitely.
I believe we were in TV production together. I know we've had this conversation. I get very forgetful.
You and me both. But yeah, I believe it was TV production.
Mark
as well.
Rocheteau was phenomenal TV production. Also, I was lucky enough to have Mark Lindy for a TV class.
Yep.
Mark Lindy, who obviously is the executive producer over at Brockton, I believe it's Brockton Cable Access, BCA.
Okay.
I was lucky enough to have Mark. Massasoit was nice because it was so quaint. It was, together. It was a smaller group. You go to Bridgewater State. I'm more of a backwoods, down-home type guy. Bridgewater State for me wasn't my cup of tea, but you work your way through it, and
right.
It is what it is.
Now, regarding your broadcasting experience and up until now, what are your future plans as far as broadcasting? I know you were talking about the clubhouse and expanding in that role. What about the broadcasting side?
I've been lucky enough, and I don't intend to keep stealing your thunder because I know what you've got coming my way, but lucky enough, again, I'll mention the guy who's on the other side of the cameras today, who you see up in this seat a lot, Kevin Tachi.
Right.
I met Kevin in Whitman at he was filming something for Whitman Hanson Community Access, as I get the glare from him. And I was lucky enough to be introduced to Kevin back in 2009, the summer of 2009. And Steve Boyce, who we mentioned earlier in the broadcast, introduced me to him. Kevin was at the radio station in Brockton, WXBR, and Kevin knew I had some broadcasting. I had an interest,
right.
and I had some experience with East Bridgewater Community Television and whatnot. And Kevin goes, "Hey, how would you like to come in and do sports and be an intern on my morning show at 5 in the morning?"
Mm-hmm.
I've been used to waking up at that time. I go, yeah, why not?
Right.
And I'd come in to the radio station downtown Brockton, Main Street, at like 5:30 every weekday. I'd have my cup of coffee in hand, be ready to do whatever needed to be done.
Right.
I'd call the police stations and fire stations around. And most of the time, at that time of morning, I'd get yelled at by the certain departments. "Oh, we got nothing for you," and hang up. But that was one thing I did. I did the sports I think twice an hour on the Metro South Morning News with Kevin Tachi. And from there, that kind of led to me producing on Saturday mornings at the station. Kevin and I would switch off every week. And I'd produce Talking Cars with Junior D'Amato, which I know Kevin still stays in touch with Junior, and people who might know Junior D'Amato, that was always a trip. I enjoyed that show thoroughly. Junior would talk about 1984 transmissions and mufflers on a Volkswagen or whatever, and he'd take phone calls. And so Junior's show was on from like 8 to 10, and then you'd have a couple of other shows, and it was a great experience. And after producing for a couple of years, Junior left, and I was able to get my own radio show, and that was 2011. I was doing a country music radio show on XBR, and that lasted for 3 years, doing Rise and Shine with Myles Heger.
Nice.
Was lucky enough to introduce a ton of country artists. Florida Georgia Line, who's huge right now. Cassidy Pope, who won The Voice. Craig Campbell. I could name them
The list
off,
goes on for you.
on and off, and got to meet a lot of them as well. It was a terrific experience over at the radio station. And right now I'm not doing any radio work. I miss doing the country show. So to get back to your earlier question of what do you see coming,
Right.
I would like to be working for a major radio station, maybe playing country music down the line, and see what happens. I think I'm doing some writing right now on a Facebook page for country music stuff going on in the area. So we'll see what happens.
So, I know. So who do you did you play the most on your country radio station? I know you must have had a favorite, Myles.
I do and I don't. I go. Nowadays, I'm not able to play music on the radio, so
Right.
I'm lucky enough to control jukeboxes at local establishments wherever I go. But when I was on the radio, I loved a lot of the stuff I grew up on, the 90s country, Brooks
Right.
and Dunn, Alan Jackson, Garth Brooks, Kenny Chesney, George Strait, Faith Hill, Tim McGraw. So I'd always make it a point to play some 90s stuff. But I like a lot of the newer stuff, Jason Aldean, Florida Georgia Line, Blake Shelton, Kenny Chesney, who's still new. So if I had to pinpoint it, I would probably have to say it would have been one of three artists who I played a lot. Toby Keith,
Okay.
Jason Aldean, or Kenny Chesney, or George Strait. So there's four.
You don't want to name one more?
Can't think of them, but those would be my four, because I know that on my iTunes playlist, those are the four people you see at the top of my list. So that's my guess.
Nice. Well, Myles, we're almost close to the show, the ending of the show. It's been great having you on my show. I appreciate it. It's been such a humbling experience to have you with all this information, and you've been such a great guest. I appreciate having you.
Well, I will say, obviously, before you sign off, it's different for me to be on this side of the seat.
Yeah.
I'm the one who gets to babble on, which I'm good at. And I think you've done a phenomenal job asking the questions, and I think the people of Whitman and Hanson are very lucky to have you, and continue to do Hunter's World. It's a pretty cool show, and it's great that I get to be on this side, because I really enjoy it. The bright lights are tough when you're asking the questions.
No, it's definitely been a great experience. I appreciate having you. For those out there, this is the second episode of Hunter's World. There will be more to come. Stay tuned for the next episode of Hunter's World. For anyone who would like to be on Hunter's World, get in contact with me, James Hunter. You can get me on Facebook, Twitter as well. And you can contact me. Myles, do you have any contact information that you would like anyone to get in contact with?
I'm of course on. Well, I'm on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Match.com. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. No, I'm on there. I'm sure they'll see my name on the graphics. You can find me on there. Find me on Twitter. For the most part, I enjoy, just putting random stuff up.
Yes.
So.
Yes.
And it's again, thanks a lot for having me.
No, thank you.
It's been great. And if people are watching this show, maybe in my hometown, it's great to see you guys on local cable again. And I truly appreciate the opportunity. It's great to talk with you, and
definitely
looking forward to working with you in the winter.
Of course, definitely. And again, for those out there, look forward to more Hunter's World coming up. That's all we have for today, everyone. I'll see you next time. Thank you.
In Vietnam, we took care of each other.
In combat, you look out for your battle buddy.
I'd do anything for my unit,
When things get tough, it's great to know
Somebody's there for you.
every step of the way.
DAV stands behind America's veterans to make their transition back home easier, with free services and help getting the benefits they've earned. Help us fulfill the promise to our men and women who served. Go to DAV.org to learn more.